hardest thing is normally about, I've already let these people down.
When Sendy collapsed, what was the very first thought that came into your mind?
Made everyone focus on what they are good at.
How do you carry the label of a failed founder?
Family, I don't know even where you start. They know you've been building this thing in Nairobi for 10 years. And then...
For Sendy's failure,
Yeah.
what lessons do you think every African founder should know?
It's better to get there in one piece than get there in pieces.
Hello, and welcome to the Rooted in Quality podcast by AfroQuality. Today, we are having a conversation with an amazing gentleman, someone I've known, and we are going to talk about his story. At the end of the podcast, then we will tell the reason why we feel very close to him as a panelist or as a guest on today's episode. He is one of East Africa's amazing technology minds, having worked with a business that has seen all the various seasons and stages that any African builder can imagine or think about. And how that story ended is one that, as any builder, if you don't get shaken by it, then probably you are just not fully human. And today he sits here very strong and very committed to the cause of building on the continent. And we'll get into the stories behind what the news would not tell you. Welcome to Rooted in Quality, Mr. Evanson Biwott.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversations.
Really? Are you looking forward to it?
Yes. I think over time I haven't had a chance to talk about this story as much. So this will be a very insightful conversation. Yeah.
Evanson, to start with, if your entire life up until now is reduced to one headline right now, do you fear that you would only be referred to as the chief technology officer whose startup failed?
No, I mean, it definitely does cross my mind that I was part of a company that failed. But I think more than that, there are moments during getting the company that really defined who I was. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that we were able to build something in Africa. Then there was the notion that we only have to buy things from abroad. There's no technology, the know-how isn't available in Kenya. So, I was able to build a very strong engineering team. And most of them, the engineers that I work with and product managers, are able to still deliver products and quality things in the Kenyan market. So I would rather be remembered as someone who built something in Kenya. It worked and was able to build other engineers like myself to build amazing products.
So the startup that you were part of the team that to build was Sendy,
Yes.
which rose to amazing heights that anybody can dream of. Yeah. When Sendy collapsed, what was the very first thought that came into your mind?
So the interesting thing about it is the company doesn't collapse
overnight.
There is steps, right? And those steps are almost gradual, for lack of a better word. Because the first thing that happens is the company goes into administration. And then the next thing after that is you need to maintain the core services. So you maintain the minimum staff to run the company. So that goes for about, a month or so. So over time, the interaction with customers reduces, what the company does goes down. So that period of the company going down took about 6 months. Right? Within those 6 months, you're always thinking, you know what? There's hope. We might come. Maybe tomorrow is the day, right? Because there are people who are actively working on the investor side to make sure you have secure funds to run. There are people who are trying to convince customers not to drop us off. So it's a journey that gets worse by the day. You keep losing hope after every week or so. But it was definitely a journey that up to the point it stops after 6 months, then you sit down and say, you know what, actually, looks like there's no more Sendy.
Listening to you, it must have been very painful. Like, I don't know, like it's like death by 1,000 cuts or something. Like, because
is.
you can see it coming.
Yes, that's the worst thing about it. And when you've worked on something for almost 13 years, right? I mean, I remember the first meeting we had when we started Sendy, right? And kind of the last meeting. So it's very painful when you've worked for something for 13 years and then later you're told, you know what, it's no more.
What does the public not know that you can share about that period of the company's journey and for you personally as well?
What the public doesn't know is when you're building a company, you're working with people, right? These people become your colleagues. Like people who've come in as interns have grown up to become senior engineers, right? And when the company goes down, the first thing that you have, for me, it was, I've already let these people down, right? I sold them on an idea because to maintain engineers, you always have to tell them, you know what, the future is great. I know why I'm doing this. These people have been with you through thick and thin, right? So the thing that really made it very hard for me, and it was a very big struggle for me, is, facing the engineers that have stuck with me for that time. Someone is like, I want to leave. I've gotten a better job somewhere else, right? But you're telling them, stick with me. Even though I'm not giving you that higher pay, I want you to stick with me because I know where we're going. So that bit of letting people down was really tough.
In Africa, do you think failure is treated differently, than what probably would happen whether you were in Europe or in the Silicon Valley?
Potentially, I would say yes. And it might come with the fact that at Sendy we were really privileged to be able to get that funding, right? Mm-hmm. So, and getting that funding is really hard because from an African perspective, for you to prove that I'm worthy to get that funding, it takes a lot of convincing people and people really trusting in you.
And for those that didn't know, in total, how much did Sendy raise?
We raised upwards of about $20 million.
Okay.
That is cumulatively up to that point. I think up to that point it was about $26 million or so.
Okay.
You are seen as a representative of the African continent and what it can do, right? It feels like you're carrying the belief of everyone behind you. So failure really hits hard because then one of the things you're worried about is, are we creating a bad perception of African startups so that we can't go beyond a certain point? So the judgment and the critique is more because we were the pioneers.
If I will share my experience, so I think the time when I started picking the news that Sendy might go down, I was like, I couldn't believe it because I had not known the brand for so long. Yeah. And then when I got to know it, I was wowed to see that, okay, these guys have actually built this machine. And the way I think about solutions for the continent's problems, I'm very big on infrastructure, networks. Yeah. So when I see people having built some, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Then I think, was it not long after then Market Force happened? So it was like, okay, something is a bit right. off. Is this by design? What's really happening? Yeah. But then much later, when I went back, maybe it's also the skills fall off. Uh-huh. And then I looked at the reality of the businesses, the business model and all that. Then I was like, So maybe to piggyback on that for my next question is, for you, was there a time when you felt like, okay, you've built a great business from an engineering point of view, everything, the logistics, everything was working well. But was there a point where you said, okay, this thing might not work just because maybe the unit economics are not looking right?
No. So in logistics, unit economics is a very tricky thing to do because the margins are extremely thin, right? Because the customer is trying to pay as least as possible and the driver is trying to make as much as they can, right? So even when things are going south, some of the business units had already broken even, right? So you have a couple of business units that are making money, some are not. So we always knew Sendy is a long game. We didn't expect to start making money immediately. So our goal was, are we on the right trajectory? Are this business growing at a point that, if we hit that critical volume or mass numbers, then the business will make even. So there was a plan. The plan was working well. So it didn't, for me, I wouldn't say we got to a point where I was like, this business isn't going to keep going forward.
What part of your childhood growing up in Kenya do you think shaped you to become that interested in technology and wanting to build things?
I come from a family of 5. Sorry, not 5, but that's including my mom and dad.
Okay.
So I come from a family of 3. I'm
Okay.
the eldest. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My dad is an agricultural officer, and my mom is a nurse. When we were brought up, I always saw my parents working on things with their hands and building things, locally at home. My dad, other than being an agricultural officer, he was also a carpenter. My mom, other than being a nurse, was also a tailor. So I would see them making things at home. So we grew up with this notion that you can, every problem that you have, you can solve with whatever is around you. Their bringing was, we're always fixing things in the house. You're always, fencing or doing something in the farm or doing something with mom. So we grew up fixing things. And I think ultimately that kind of made us, as siblings, all of us ended up being engineers, right?
Okay.
Ideally, all of us are still in the same field. So their bringing was, if you have a problem, you have something around you that you can go to, can help you fix it.
So did you see that as making you a lot more biased towards being street smart or being book smart because you had to do or build things?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think it made me book smart and very technical, right? And able to solve problems by what's around me. Being street smart, I think that came later in campus.
Okay.
So when I went into campus, I quickly, I think almost my 3rd year or so, I learned that whatever I'm learning in class isn't going to help me outside there, right? So it means now I had to go outside and figure out, fine, in class I'm being taught one line of programming, right? But then how do you turn this on actual something that a customer can actually use, right? And that's when I now started doing some internships, which ultimately ended up with me joining the team that started Sendy.
So maybe tell us a little bit about that, and I want to tie it a little bit into, like, what was your first hustle or project that you worked on that gave you the feeling or the confidence that, okay, maybe I'm a builder and I just want to be in a space where we'll build things?
Among my earliest hustles, I remember post high school, because we used to have this 2-year period where you stay at home and do before you do in the university.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of things. I sold maize. So we'd go to a farmer who has maize in his store. We didn't have any money. So we tell him, we know you have this maize in the store and you're unable to sell it. Give us the maize, we'll bring you back the money in a week. So we take the maize, we go to different markets around the county. So we'd find maybe in town 1, the market is on Monday, town 2, the market is on Tuesday. So we'd sell it in 3 days, we come back, we tell him, here's your money.
Okay.
And then of course we take our cut from it. He's like, this is amazing, let me give you more maize. So that's what, I did that for about 6 months. Then I was like, wait, this it's fine, this is a no sales, maybe I need to try something else. I also ran a mini computer shop.
This was still in university?
This is before
university.
Before university, yeah. So in the shop, of course, the normal computer shop does like simple things like printing and the likes. And then I noticed that doesn't make money as much as you wanted it to. I remember one of the best-selling things was calendars, which is very odd.
Okay.
So someone would be like, I have a picture, but I want it to be on a calendar.
Okay.
So I would have a picture at
Yes,
the top, and
understandable.
then the
Personalization.
yes,
Yes.
and then you have the pages of the calendars from January to December stitched below the picture, and that made a lot of money actually. Um, I was also teaching a couple of people as well, computing and the likes. So switching to that, I realized um, it's less effort. It needed more skill, but then at least you're getting more money from that.
So you studied software engineering at Kenyatta University.
Yes.
I wonder how was it like studying software engineering those days? I would assume internet would be patchy and
Yeah.
it's not like today.
Internet was patchy. Yes, it wasn't as stable as it is now. But I think I was lucky because the time I was going to university is the time that when the technical boom was just kind of starting, right?
Okay.
Safaricom and Peso was just hit, the market was getting strong. Smartphones are now coming to the market. So there was this new market of making services available on mobile devices. So there's a lot of like year on year, there were like significant changes. I remember one of the first languages I learned on mobile was J2Me. I don't know J2Me. Suddenly there's these new mobile devices from Safaricom and everyone is excited about them. What can we do on them? So there was this significant boom. And then at the same time also, there's a lot of startups coming up.
Okay.
One of the earliest startup I remember was called M-Shop, which was actually being done by the people we ended up building Sendy. So you would see on the news, these guys have won an award building a mobile app that does ticketing, and you're like, that's amazing. How does that work, right? So I immediately knew I didn't want to go into the typical tech side, like banking or insurance. So I was like, nah, that's boring. It doesn't
fun
feel
enough.
impact. So, and there are a lot of new exciting projects around them. And then I had just come up. We were lucky enough that we went in when there was a massive transition on technology coming in and actually people willing to give you an opportunity to kind
To
of try
young
what you want
people.
here.
So it was more of the education was the classic schoolwork, but the
Yes.
ecosystem is what encouraged you to not even pursue the classic academic engineering path,
Yes.
but to
Yes.
get into entrepreneurship because
Exactly.
the timing was just right for
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
If you were not born at the time you were born and you still study software
Yeah.
engineering and you didn't live within that boom,
Yeah.
what do you think you would be doing with your software engineering skills?
I would have done something technical. Maybe design something or maybe be part of the people who initiate the boom. Yeah.
The period where you said you talked briefly about the guys you
Yeah.
met whom you ended up building Sendy with. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about that? What was that journey? How did you first meet and what was the conversation like?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting journey. So in my third year, when you move from third year to fourth year, you're supposed to do an internship program.
Yeah.
I looked for an internship for like, I think 2 months. Right? I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna find something because it's a requirement. I was like, you don't need to pay me. I'm just need to do this for me to get, to kind of tick a box I need. Lucky enough, the person I ended up meeting, they had just won an award or something. So they built I think the app I just talked about a while back called M Shop. Mm-hmm. So I joined them. I was like, fine, I just want to join you guys. Just want to queue for 3 months. And then after those 3 months, I just go back to school. A lecturer will come and check that I have finished this internship because it's exhausting. It's exhausting to get that opportunity. So when I joined them, the guy was like, you know what, we just come here, we're not gonna pay you. Just do your thing.
Who was this?
So this was a guy called Marcel. This was way, way back.
Okay.
Yes. So I came in and then I joined them. So for the first month, I was just given small tasks to do. After 1 month, there was a guy called Don. So the guy called Don was the guy in charge of sales and monies and everything. He comes and tells me, I've heard some good things about you. Looks like you're doing something good. We'll give you some money. We'll give you 7,000 a month. It's not very bad. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So after 3 months, I finished my internship. After finishing my internship, so this time now I was building web applications for their front-end APIs. And what would happen actually is they would give me an assignment to do, and I genuinely didn't know how to do it, but I would tell them I would go and do it. And then later back in the house, I'd just go and research on it, work on it probably a couple of hours in the night, come back in the morning and say, yeah, here it is. They're like, oh, you know how to do this thing. But generally, I wouldn't, something
Learning
like,
from scratch.
yes, doing it from scratch. After the internship for 3 months, I was like, I need to go back to school. They're like, no, we don't want you to go back to school. We want you to stay with us. So they upped my salary a bit. So all through my 4th year, I was spending half the time in school, half the time in the internship. And I think now that kind of really changed my mind on how business works compared to building things within a room. Immediately when I finished campus, they're like, yo, you just finished classes. You finished classes on Friday, Monday you're reporting to work. Yeah. So that's how I ended up joining and starting with them.
Now, what was the story? How did the story move from M-Shop to finally become Sendy?
The company I joined immediately after campus was called MTL. Okay. So I joined them as a junior developer.
Okay.
And at that time, we were building a couple of ticketing systems for a couple of bus companies in Kenya, ticketing and courier services. So it was a typical software development company. So after a year, I think the money's dried out. When I joined, it was a team of about 7.
Okay.
After about 9 months or so, some people had left the company. So we were about a team of 3. So it was a very lean company. Funds were very limited and the likes. And then one day, the CEO, then is called Meshach, he comes with his ideas like, I'm thinking of building like some sort of an app for you to be able to deliver things offline. So we kept talking, and the reason why he wanted to build the app is because I think he was doing some construction at home for his mom, and he had sent a border guy to deliver cement to the construction. But the border guy basically disappeared in the cement.
He went to build his own house.
To build his own house. So he was like, maybe we could build something. So it started off kind of a side project. In fact, I remember we didn't have a name for it when we started it. In fact, most of the services running behind it were called Parcel because I had to give a name to whatever project I'm building anyway. What happened is he would build the mobile application and then I would build the whole infrastructure behind it. So the database, the APIs, the websites, metrics, etc. The first prototype we pushed out probably took like a month or so. Okay. Right? It was just like you open the app, you see drivers, you tap on a driver, shows you their name, you call the driver. And then traction kind of picked up. So that's like 2014. Then mid-2014, that's when, we were like, okay, fine.
This thing
looks like it can grow.
So I was going to ask, when was the spark moment when Sendy moved from just an idea to something that could be a company? But from what you just said, so was that the moment when, after you put it out there, you saw the traction?
So that was one of the moments when you put it out there and people downloaded it. The other moment that actually made us know that this is a valuable idea is we took it to a competition. There's a competition called Pivot East at the time, 2014. It was, I think, a yearly competition of startups in East Africa. So we took it there and we won.
Okay.
Right? We won by like, everyone was super excited about, about the technology we're building, about the impact it might have. And when we came back to the office, because we had an award, it was a happy moment. When you came back to the office, then the reality hits you like, okay, so this is serious. So we need to put more effort into this, right? And I think that moment was kind of the validation that gave us that existing people in the market have told you you're on the right track.
And then the rest, as they say, became...
The rest, as they say, became history.
Now, in that whole journey, you built Sendy for almost 13 years.
Yeah.
As Chief Technology Officer,
yeah.
What was the hardest technical problem you solved that most people would never hear about, like in that whole period?
So there's a lot of complexity that comes with real-time systems. With real-time systems, you can't afford to have even a minute downtime is really impactful, right? And one of the things we really struggled with, even from earlier days, was figuring out how to get that location details from the driver to the system to determine who to give the order to, show it to the customer so that the customer can know this is where my driver is at. And evolving that small section of the technology took a lot of time. It meant redesigning how the application works, because initially the whole application was just one massive thing. Then you need to split it into bits as microservices so that you have each component specialized in what it does, right? It gave us a massive issue maybe earlier, maybe the first 4 years or so. But towards the tail end, I think that's the thing that we really got well. Being able to process in just that much information, because we process about 30 GB of data on a daily basis, right?
Okay.
Be able to get that location directly to the customer, use it on the system for route optimizations, etc. But I would say the toughest thing about the CTO thing wasn't much about to do with the technology aspect of it. The hardest thing is normally about first is managing people, so getting the best out of people, right? Being able to grow junior engineers to staff engineers, right? Being able to structure a team around unstructured requirements, because you're getting, everyone is saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, because the logistics bandwidth is very, very wide.
Yeah.
So the toughest thing is managing people and also being able to filter out the right requirements for you to achieve something, because it's very easy to get scattered and thinned out because you're trying to achieve every small feature across different departments or across different problems.
You know, I coming from telecoms background, so
Yeah.
I've been quite close to
Yeah.
technology people. And once I go a bit more into the logistics and the technology behind logistics,
Yeah.
I've always felt like the technology people in logistics don't get the right recognition for what it actually takes to fuse. Because if I sit behind my computer and I write code to build, I don't know, like a dating app or I don't know, a social media service,
Yeah.
at the foundational stage, it's just, okay, one server sitting here,
Yeah.
everybody's bringing in their data, you write your algorithms and everything, and it's working fine. But to build even the basic form of a logistics service, even as a prototype, by design at the outset, you are trying to connect things from the real world to the tech space, and you need to have framework for it to be able to work. It doesn't feel like, for you as a professional, do you get the sense that coming from technology and not having gone to the sexy part of technology and deciding to go to the hardcore or the logistics part of it, do you feel like most times people underappreciate your work?
Logistics is hard. It's very hard. I mean, you've clearly said it. It's all about integrations and connections, right? You have to look at you have, for example, for one thing to be successful, you potentially have about 50 points that could break, right? So I think logistics is a hard business. People that do it, I mean, kudos to them. I'm still doing it. It's definitely underappreciated field. It's not very shiny, it's not very sexy, but it definitely has an impact. When you're building a technology platform, more often than not, you'll find yourself using at least 20 plus technologies, right? Because you need something else to be stable. For example, if you're building payments, you want it to be stable. You don't necessarily want it to be fast, because that is a critical component, dealing with payments. If you're building a location service, you want it to be extremely fast. It's okay if you lose one location in a millisecond, right? So you have to play around with so many components and make sure they all work together in sync, and failure is quickly, figured
Fixed.
out, and everything's brought back. So it's definitely a hard field.
Coming back to the Sendy experience,
Yeah.
did you feel like maybe the business had to grow faster than you were ready for as Sendy scaled? Because you ended up scaling to Uganda,
Yeah.
Nigeria, a number of other countries.
A mixture of both. So during Sendy's growth, it would change what is leading the company. So at some points, it would be commercially led. The business would go and say, we found this type of clients, right? This type of clients will bring money. Now, we want you to build tech to support this kind of clients, right? Some other phases would be product led.
Okay.
So we had phases where product would look into the data and say, we've seen this, people are buying this item more often than not, or we've identified this gap from a product perspective by looking at data. And then we as product now would build a product and tell the salespeople like, hey, we've built this thing, go and try it out, right? So it was a mixture of both. Sometimes we would get pulled commercial side, sometimes it would be product side.
You talked about the nature of building for logistics and how the thought process around microservices to just make sure that you can deliver any specific units efficiently as possible. What did Sendy get right that you are most proud of, even if the business ended up not, I don't want to say failing, not succeeding?
It failed. It's called a spade.
What do you think Sendy got right that makes you most proud that even the market might not be aware of?
We had a very good product team, a very capable engineering team, and the whole delivery process was very, very fine-tuned, to designing, to developing, to testing, to shipping. And I think that came from a point of allowing engineers to try out things, and if they fail, they're not, it's not a vindictive environment, right? It's like, fine, it failed, but what can we do to improve this? So we had a very good engineering culture. I think that's the thing we really, really got right. Being able to push quality products, quality services, and being able to, proudly say, I built this, right? I mean, up to now, I'm still impressed by the fact that most of the engineers that I worked with at the time are really doing amazing things right now. And some of them still say ex-Sendy, which means that name still carries some weight, right? And also being able to build locally, I think also made us very agile as well, because it's not like we don't know how this thing works. We need to reach out to some people
to tell you,
far away, to tell us how this thing works. So we were the engineering team was very, very efficient.
Could that have been maybe a point of failure or a point of leading to the failure? And I ask this with a thought in mind. There's this much talked about situation with Steve Jobs when he came back into Apple, where they had a system in place where people were just churning out all sorts of products. And then he apparently got up and canceled everything and says, we are going to focus on 1, 2, 3, end of story. So when you build a system where as techies or builders, you are able to build things, and you are in a market where we are in a developing economy, so there are always a lot of problems. So now that you have the ability to build, you think your superpower is in just building to solve every problem. And that in a way could make you get into that trap where now you don't specialize to build one solution that actually could have made the business survive. Do you think that could be a good criticism?
So it's something we did identify. So when we started Sendy initially, we were doing so many things. At some point, we did rides, so we were like Uber.
Okay. Sendy ride?
Yes, it was called Sendy rides.
Oh, okay.
So you open the app and then you can either do delivery or ride. We also had a component within the app at some point that did laundry. So you could say I want a laundry service or something. So we tried so many things. There was even a food delivery service within the application, right? But I think, so that was about the early 4 years. And then after that 4 years, you're like, wait, we're doing so many things. So we shut down some things. We shut down the laundry services, we shut down food delivery services, we shut down rides. And then we try to focus on just delivery services. But even within the delivery services, it still gets broader, right? And at the tail end, even though we were only doing delivery services, our goal had changed. Our goal had become to facilitate trading in Africa. There's finance stuff involved.
There's logistics.
There's logistics involved. There's warehousing involved. There's drop shipping involved, right? As much as we know that what we want to do is we want to be able to facilitate trade in Africa, there was still a lot of things that you are doing, right? And this ended up kind of biting us in the behind.
You know, it's interesting you said this because I was reviewing a paper about one of the recent startups that collapsed in Nigeria. I think it's Okra. And if I remember correctly, and the guys at Okra, please don't come after me if I get it wrong, but if I remember correctly, I read at the point where the lady was explaining that because they had to work in a system where the infrastructure did not exist, but then they were so keen on what they wanted to build, at some point now they had to do a lot of things to help create that environment for them to build what they actually wanted to build. And it got to a point where now they realized that it was just a bit too much and almost impossible for them to do all those things, get them right to be able to build what they have to build. Then now they had to shut down. Do you feel like you did experience a little bit of that with trying to build Sendy because you had to operate in an environment where some of the things that you would have needed did not exist?
Yes. Sometimes we were forced to track back and into the underlying infrastructure. Like I remember some of the things we did is we had to, because you realize most bikes don't have boxes, so you have to go a step down and figure out how do I get boxes
onto the
bikes, right? Like, shoot, you know what? The bikes that are there are really terrible quality. We can't use these bikes to transport food or something. So you have to get clean boxes or something like that. Or, for example, you need to transport things that are perishable, right? And then you realize you have a customer who wants that service. You have drivers, but then those vehicles are not there. So you're like, fine, let me go back and look for a financier, connect them with this owner, so that even though they have one truck that is not refrigerated, they can get a loan from XYZ, and then they can now buy that truck, and then now they can service my customer.
How did you balance it, being a founder, a leader, and also being a hands-on engineer, leading the team to build?
So the thing that really helped the most is the founding team. The founding team was really, really amazing. So the founding team was myself, who was in charge of technology. We had a guy called Don Okoth. This was the guy on the ground. This was the guy who would get things done. He would make sure drivers, the bikes are clean, we've got the boxes, we've got the government licenses. It was kind of the guy who got things moving, right? And then we had Meshach Alois, who was the CEO. He was a very good salesperson. He knew how to sell. He knew how to, he used to call it connecting dots, right? I've seen a need there and I see what we can do. If we do this, we'll be able to get there. And then we had a lady called Malaika Jude. She was very good in strategy and planning. And she majorly helped us in terms of, structuring the business, working with different investors, planning what to do next, financial metrics. This is what you monitor, forget about this, right? So having that founding team made everyone focus on what they are good at. So it made me focus on technology, and then have those guys focus on their own independent section. So that's what kind of helped us be all those things: leader, hands-on, etc.
The team.
Yeah, the team was really great.
What did you personally lose when Sendy collapsed? Beyond the money, of course.
The first thing you lose is face,
You lose face, like you don't come out for like 2 months.
You don't come out. When it finally hits you that it's done, you're like, every day you're hoping, but it finally hits you that it's done. Walk into anywhere and say you want to do something right after that. It weighs heavy on you more. I mean, as I said earlier, because there are other people depending on you, not just the people you've promised them heaven and earth that staying in Sendy is the best thing for their career. But you also have drivers who are making money on this platform on a weekly basis. It's their livelihood. You have customers who have decided to let go of their logistics departments and fully rely on you, right? Because you had customers who, because we had a dropshipping setup, you bring your things to us.
And you
as a reseller, you won't decide your things on Instagram. Then you just tell us, XYZ has bought this, and we just deliver it for you. So yeah, I think losing. So it was really hard for me personally, because you still have people reaching out to you saying, I want help on this in terms of logistics. You're like, no, I can't do that right now. And that takes, it really does beat you down. I think I took like 6-month break, went home, to the farm, do things that are a bit simple.
Was there a time when like you lost faith in technology or building? Like during that phase?
I would say yes. Yeah, because when you worked on something for over a decade and it goes down, you kind of start doubting. You're like, what did I miss? What did I miss across this journey as an engineer and as a person? So it takes time. Then you start retroactively looking at things that you missed, things that you could have done better. You're like, okay, it's fine. I'm going to learn from my mistakes. Super painful, but I'm going to learn regardless.
How about friendships? And how was the impact on like the co-founders and the dynamic that existed amongst all the co-founders? Because you mentioned that as a strong pillar that actually helped the business to do well from the beginning. But then after the collapse, how did that affect the friendship dynamics?
We were still friends. Up to now, we still do keep in contact. We still do talk. Like, hey, how are you doing? Are you around? Could you have some coffee and the likes? We still do talk, but it's not as much as as it was then. Family-wise, it's tricky because with family, I don't know even where you start. They know you've been building this thing in Nairobi for 10 years, and then so these things you don't even say. Just someone reaches out to you like, "Hey, I saw this thing on the news." So this thing on the news that the company has gone down. What's going on? So you're like, oh no, it's just a rough patch. Give it a few moments, it will come back. So that's the 6-month period of time. And then after like 6 months, we're like, oh, unfortunately, we couldn't come back. But I guess it's family. It's always tricky figuring out how to navigate that, who to tell, who not to tell, etc.
How did you handle that? Like telling even the team? For starters, and then for you in your personal life, your loved ones, how did you also tell them about coming to this point?
So for the team, it kind of trickled down. So we had like one massive meeting, I think sometime in June, where the executive communicated with the team like, hey, we are not able to make salaries this month, but these are the steps we are putting in to mitigate this and maintain critical stuff. For my team, the engineering team, the people I could reach out to, especially the lead engineers and the senior persons, we would keep in touch. During that time, we're like, let's figure out let's see if we can maintain a couple of things running. At least the system is up and running. This customer wants this, right? So that's 6-month period, and then after it's gone down, we're like, okay, now it's gone down. It became a point of now, where can I recommend these guys? Maybe
to
exactly. So it meant whenever I got an opportunity, I'm like, yo, hey, I've got this opportunity, and I think it's something good for you, right? We'll reach out and and see if there's something you can do. And I would push them like, hey, if you get something, reach out to me. I'll do the recommendation for you.
You talked earlier about at the time when when Sendy collapsed,
Yeah.
you didn't feel, you stayed home for like 6 months. You didn't feel comfortable going out to public and things like that. Did you ever consider leaving Kenya?
No, actually. Yeah. So I'm a big believer that there's still more to be done.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I always knew that even when things were south, even after things went south at Sendy, that, I mean, it shall pass, right? It's tough, yes, but it shall pass. And then next thing was, I don't think that defines me as a person, as an engineer, that yes, this thing went south. I don't need to run away from it. I can just own it, right? Knowing very well that I did my best. I put a lot of work into this. I've learned from it. It has made me become a different kind of engineer than I was then, right? Now for me now it's about whatever I'm building. Does it have an impact? Is it gonna last? You know.
You do have a lot of resilience, and I don't know, what does resilience look like in Kenya's startup ecosystem?
Yeah.
Like, do you see a lot of other guys who have such challenges or their businesses fail? Do you see them with this much resilience in still wanting to stay, wanting to build here?
So I think in Kenya there are, like, I would say, two classes of startups. There are those that are very shiny, very outspoken. What they do is very cool. It's hype. Those ones tend to get more attention, and they can either run on, more often than not, they run on investor funds, right? It's like, with all the investor funds, there's really nothing much they can, they can't really go beyond that. And then there are startups that are on the ground, right? You'd find these startups have very limited technology, very limited manpower, but they're just focusing on the customer. Like, what can we do for this customer? I've really given this customer this value.
Can I build more into it?
And then are they actually paying for this? It's not about I'm going to give you value in 10 years. Like, I'm going to give you value now, pay me, then I build on it. I think after saying most of the startups that I've worked with have seen, and now this second tier I've talked about, ones that they're not shiny, it's dirty work. I'm probably not on the news. I'm probably not on, a startup,
on blogs or features,
right? But I'm actually giving value to the customer, and I think those are the ones that actually show the most resilience, because they're actually giving visible value to the customer, right? It's not about our tech can do this for you, right? It's not about our AI can miraculously do XYZ for you. It's my business enables you to do this thing, and I'm giving you this value, and you can see it.
But then the ones that have the resilience and focus on the customers, obviously they don't seem to be very much celebrated in the market. To even push the boundary, maybe not that much appreciated by the average person, because they don't really hear a lot of hype about them.
I think that's okay, because most often than not, the darkest job aren't the shiniest, right? But they're the most important, right? So I think the way those companies are growing, they're not growing at like massive leaps year on year, right? They're growing slowly, but it's a steady growth. It's a growth that, yes, it's not we're going to hit 200% increase in the next 2 months, right? We're increasing 50% this year, next year 20%. So it's slow growth that you can see, and it's also a sustainable point of growth. It's not like I need to pump in $1 million a month for me to make 100,000 shillings a month, right? It's measured growth that is sustainable, and you can see it's moving. And I think those are the ones that will will actually get the farthest.
How do you carry the label of a failed founder
Yeah.
whilst trying to build again?
Immediately after Sendy died, yes, that failed founder CTO is with you, right? And I remember even at that time I didn't want to be involved in anything major. I was just like, I'm gonna focus on other things, right? So I think that failed part was kind of wants you to get, you won't just get buried in your house and you don't want to leave, right? But after about a year or so, after talking to people and getting out there and learning what people want, you start realizing you meet someone and they're like, wait, you are Sendy, right? Yes. Now I want to know, how did you guys do this component? How did you achieve this? I've tried doing it, but I can't figure it out, right? And then you get more and more of those, and you start to realize people, either one, they want to exploit you. That's one way, right? They want to like say, oh, Sendy failed, so I'm trying to fill that gap. Let me just ask this guy how he did it. Then I did it, then I capitalize on it. The other aspect is just people are really interested in like, wait, you guys solved this problem, but maybe I think this way you guys went off. So I'm going to try the same thing, but maybe in this different perspective, but I would love your feedback. Most of the stuff I've been involved in since Sendy, 80% of them are in logistics, right? And I've been working with roughly about 10 or so logistic companies, and all of them want to understand, how did you do this component? How did you optimize this? So yes, initially coming as that mentality is still there, but I think understanding that you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, you have the expertise, and you know how to optimize those systems, makes you, or me rather, know that you're still valuable. Failed, but still valuable.
Yeah, again, it comes back to the way we probably look at failure. Evanson joined AfroQuality as our co-founder and chief technology officer. So that's why I was putting a caveat in front of that question that we're asking. But it's very important, because to have it in you to want to build again is something that most people might not appreciate, because the average person would just say, okay, I'll just give up and trying to build. And what we are trying to build in AfroQuality is very difficult. So even I think from the very beginning, when we ran into each other and I was processing in my mind, I was a bit scared. I was like, after all these things that this man has been through, I'm sure he would just say, no. I don't want to do any difficult stuff again.
Yeah.
So for me, I always say, mad respect
Yeah.
for even wanting to put yourself out there again, to build again for this continent.
Yeah.
Because, and it's difficult, it's still difficult to build what we are trying to build with AfroQuality and AfroTrader. So again, it's a different mindset to it. And if nobody says it, at least me, I'm saying it now on record, that mad respect for wanting to continue to build on the continent. For Sendy's failure, what lessons do you think every African founder should know before they think about raising the next or the first dollar?
Before you start raising, you have to ensure that you have a good team behind you, right? A team that actually believes in what you're doing, knows where you want to be. You might not know how you want to get there, but having a structure and a plan of how to get there. You also need to be able to decide what to build, potentially how long you want that thing to experiment. For example, you want to build something, but you want to experiment it on the market for some time. You need to be able to say, I'm going to spend 1 month on this. And if it fails, I need to make a quick decision. Do I need to keep at it, or do I need to move to something else? And you also need to be able to have a very clear goal of what you want to achieve. Because along the way, some other opportunities keep popping up, and it's very easy to look at them and say, maybe if I add this onto my packaging for my clients, I might get more clients, right? So figuring out exactly what you need and
staying true to it.
Yeah.
But then again, in the startup space, there's a lot of talk and focus on taking advantages and pivoting when it's right.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that, knowing that, okay, the focus will help you, but then you might end up not pivoting at the right time when the opportunity was in front of you? How do you balance that?
First, does it have value to your customer, right? That's one. Number two, try and get the actual cost of going into it. Because sometimes it's very easy to look at something and say, this will just take me a week. Just add it onto in here and, I'll have a fantastic offering for my customers. So trying to actually know more than just this, how much time and money will this thing, cost me? Is the team that I have actually able to deliver whatever I'm adding onto it, right? Does it make sense? Will I be betraying the original goal I had if I go this direction, right? I mean, it's okay to experiment and try out new things, right? But the balance should be there. Yeah.
Where you sit now,
Yeah.
how do you approach trust after experiencing everything and also getting to see what happens when investors and partners walk away? The people who were cheering you on now all of a sudden are going a different direction. How has that impacted your view of trust?
Figuring out who you want to kick off with. Maybe taking a bit more time to actually look at the people you want to work with and not be in a hurry. Take your time, do your homework. Is this a valid partnership? And try and understand what's the end game, right? You used to have this question during interviews, like, sure, I want to partner with you, I want to work with you, but what's the end game? So I think it has made me a bit more cautious on what I decide to do.
Okay.
A bit more reserved, careful, and also maybe a bit more interested in the details, right? That, yes, you want to do this, but how exactly do you want to do this? What do you expect us to be in 5 years? What do you expect us to be in 10 years? What's your objective? How are you thinking about this?
What are the things that you think you are focusing a lot more now that you didn't before?
The things I demanded from my previous co-founders is the same one I still look into now, right? That when you're starting something with someone, you have to realize that more often than not, you're not investing in the business itself. It's rather the person. It becomes, are you able to handle your part of the business, right? Are you able, if we split roles and you have to lead something and I have to cover something, do I need to come and check in every time what's running on your side? The trust that I can have in someone to be able to handle their part of the business is a very critical bit that will make me go into another partnership. I mean, these are still the same things that I looked at when I was at Sendy.
Do you still believe that Africa can produce globally respected engineering teams without outsourcing abroad?
Yes, very much. The other day I was looking at some competitions. I think it was happening in Senegal, Dakar. There are still really amazing startups and companies in especially around Kenya or so, that are doing really great things. So I think we still have the capability to build amazing products. And now I think now that we have, these postgraduate programs by like Moringa, ALX, it's really pumping a lot of technical know-how into the market.
Why did you choose to join AfroQuality as co-founder? Like, what did you see? What convinced you?
Well, you did.
What did I do? What about it convinced you?
Yeah, so I think the platform can be able to, enable someone internationally access things that are made in Africa, right? That we can be able to expose the things made by the artisan on an international level, put this thing in front of customers, which I believe is an area that has not been explored, right? Because these things just sit within a community and only the community have access to those things. So I think that ability to have a platform that has that kind of impact is really great. You have to look at, does the person actually believe in what they're trying to sell? And I think that's even a bigger factor than the actual business itself. Because I know that you believe in what you do, then I'm like, okay, I know he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that this thing actually runs as envisioned. And also kind of having that plan that I know 5 years, this is where I'm going to be, 10 years, this is where I'm going to be, and this is the direction I'm going. This is what I want to achieve, and being very hard-headed on it that, yes, I know you guys talk about those other things, but that's what I want. Yeah.
So there are some similarities, so to speak, between how or what we're trying to build with AfroQuality and Sendy, mostly from a structure and market vision point of view. How are you approaching building technology differently this time compared to Sendy?
To ensure that we're not trying to build so many things, right? We're trying to build a few things that do very, very well in those very few specific things, than build many things that do things up to 80-70%. So being very intentional of exactly how we want the customer experience to be like, optimizing a very, very simple solution, right? And trying to be very, very critical of anything else that comes in, right? So before anything else is added onto that list, is like, do we really need this, right? Is it really important for us? So I think keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, and being very, very good in the very specific things that we do.
What does success or a successful AfroQuality look like to you? Not for the company as a vision, but to you, both as an engineer and as a co-founder.
Success for me would mean simplicity and ease, right? Regardless of what technology is being used, if it's USSD, if it's whatever it's calling, if it's WhatsApp, whatever it is, the simplicity for the artisan to be able to put their products on the platform, and the simplicity for the customer to buy something and get it, right? Whatever happens in between here, that's fine, but just very simple entry points for both the stakeholders.
Do you dream about fixing the past when building AfroQuality, or building the future?
No, I hardly think about the past nowadays. It's been 3 years now, so kind of have to move on. I think it's more about, for me, getting better from the lessons of the past and figuring out how to build something better based on those lessons, whether they are good lessons or bad lessons.
Someone will say there's nothing like a bad lesson. So long as it's a lesson, you take it. It might just be bitter. When you think about yourself, your future children, generations to come, if they are to ask you what you learned from Sendy, what truth would you want them to remember?
We live in a world where everything is instantaneous. I need this thing now, I need that feature yesterday. I need to be there tomorrow. It's a good virtue when you are starting off and you want to move fast. But I think over time you learn that it's better to get there in one piece than get there in pieces. And you got there, one day earlier. So take your time, think about things. There's no need to hurry.
Take it slow. Evanson Biwott, it's been amazing talking to you. Today we've been talking to the former co-founder and CTO of Sendy, now co-founder and CTO of AfroQuality, sharing his experiences, and I want to believe it's the first time that he's actually come up in the last 3 years since Sendy collapsed to talk about his view about everything that's happened. And it's been an amazing and engaging discussion, learning a lot from the experience. And for us as startups, founders and builders on the continent, to know the nuggets that we can take out of this experience. Rooted in Quality is a podcast brought to you by AfroQuality. We'll be back again next time somewhere from around the continent. So keep it locked in on this YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Mr. Biwott.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.